What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We're here to continue our pre-draft NFL draft process, going to take a look at the quarterbacks in this upcoming class. Should be the most polarizing position every year. It always is. So should be an exciting conversation. Theo, I know you have a hot take about the way this class slots up, and yeah, we'll get into it. But before we do, Matt, Theo, it's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about the greatest position in sports, which is NFL quarterback.
Is it the greatest position in sports?
I mean, what other position is like NFL quarterback? Like, what other position has the aura?
Some might argue pitcher.
Nope.
Baseball.
Nope.
No.
Shout out baseball. Very similar.
I don't know soccer
football.
positions. Is there a position in soccer that?
Nope. Not like quarterback, man.
Matt, what about like point guard?
Nope.
Not like quarterback.
Not.
It's quarterback. It's QB.
Fair
It's
enough.
QB. There's nothing like QB. Imagine a pitcher, but they're getting rushed, you know, or a pitcher, but they could also make the batter miss and then take it
The pitcher makes the batter
40 more yards. Like it's just the best. It's just the best. Like nothing else comes close, honestly.
I do love me a good quarterback, and this will be a good episode for that. So, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've been doing taxes all weekend, and that's been a pain in my ass. I swear next year I'm hiring an accountant. The Stay Hot accountant is getting hired. Like this needs to happen because I can't.
I'll do the taxes before we hire an accountant. We don't got hire people money.
Well, we're gonna get hired people money this year, and we're hiring a CPA. It needs to happen.
Yeah, me and Matt yesterday we were trying to think of nicknames for these quarterbacks, and we were also trying to think of food items to call interceptions and what's appropriate and what's not.
I like the hamburger. That's a good one.
Hamburger is good and meatball is good and lollipop is good, but our take is that it shouldn't really expand beyond those things. It shouldn't be
to me isn't necessarily an interception. A lollipop can be.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's such thing as a lollipop throw. It's a little bit more specific, I think, than a hamburger. I think most food items are not very funny to call interceptions. I see people sometimes on Twitter kind of take it one step too far. It's a very easy thing to take too far.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, that's a chicken parm with, and it's like, no, it's not. That's an interception.
That's a Wendy's 4 for 4.
At what point does it get so far taken though that it becomes funny?
Like literally anything past of one of the most basic food items you can think of.
Yeah, I don't think even an extreme one is very funny. Like you can't go, that's
a hot dog with relish. No.
Bratwurst doesn't make the cut.
No. Like that's like level 1 of taking it too far, right? It's like, well, it said hot dog, so what about bratwurst? No. And Burger Works a bratwurst, right? No.
No. Okay.
But it's tough because there's really no science to it. You have to feel it out. And it's one of those things where you really got to limit yourself on how often you're called. Not every interception can be a burger, right? Only the ones that Jordan Love throws.
Only the ones that Jordan Love throws are hamburgers.
I think that maybe there's some food items for non-interceptions. Like I like Fernando Mendoza plays in an alphabet soup ass offense. Like
yeah, it's an ABC offense. It is. There's no denying.
Yeah, no,
it's a Martha Speaks ass playbook. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an interception. Maybe I think that's where people need to go with their creativity of like what other throws can be described with the food instead of trying to think of a million different things to call interceptions. because I think the
We gotta
interception
what's a
bases are
creative thing we
covered.
could call like a sick ass completion, like throwing into a tight window?
Mm.
That's not a food item. I think the food items are probably going to be more insults.
You think so?
I know, but could we? Is there a
That's
gem
an awesome
food
burger
item?
throw. I don't know. Right? I think the food, because even the ABC offense, you say that he plays.
It's derogatory. Is there a gem food? Is there a gem food?
I don't.
Sugar
You could say.
cookie.
No, that seems like it's more in line with. If you were like playing sort of like if you were a very upright quarterback, very proper throw, that could be a sugar cookie throw. That might be a good name for some of the like sideline.
It's a gingerbread. Yeah.
It's a little little chocolate
gingerbread.
chip.
Throw is straight.
And Mendoza's kind of a sugar cookie guy in those interviews.
Yeah, I mean, there's
that.
yes, everything Mendoza does is kind of sugar cookie.
There's nothing wrong with that, nor does it mean that much. I'll say with Mendoza, we talked about this before, but my biggest frustration is the amount of personality analysis that goes on with him rather than talking about the player that he actually is. And look, like, I guess it's a good thing he does seem like a mature guy in interviews, right? He's always given pretty measured answers to whatever, and that's good. It's better than being a crazy person. But the amount to which that makes him a franchise quarterback, like, it's just not going to be the deciding factor, I don't think, versus like the amount of, I guess, like TikTok comments is what I'm really looking at, if I'm being real with you. The amount of TikTok comments that believe that, that makes him Tom Brady or whatever the hell. Or like, well, that he's the hardest worker in this class. It's like, I don't even really have an opinion on who's the hardest worker. It just seems like sort of made up Moneyball scout talk from stuff that we don't even really know personally. And it's not that I've never probably judged players and their personality or whatever.
But if you're not in the room, you don't really know.
Yeah, you don't really know with a lot of these guys.
What about Pavia?
Well,
okay, that's different. I mean, it's not that, some guys come in and like, their personality, I guess, can make a difference if you're like really, really insane. But you know what? There's insane people who end up good in the NFL.
Yep.
All the time, honestly. If being a cool guy was a prerequisite for making it in the league, things would look a lot different. If anything, it almost feels like it's the opposite sometimes, right?
Like George Pickens.
Right. So I don't know. I just find all that stuff very annoying, but it doesn't really mean anything for Mendoza as a prospect that maybe there's one too many people who are calling him like Brady or whatever. Sure. Like, it doesn't matter at all. And you can't let that get in the way. I'll say I feel like I'm a little bit higher on Mendoza than I was maybe a month ago after this. I don't know where you guys stand after diving into it a little bit more.
I feel like I'm about the same. I'll say I don't have any first round grades on any of these quarterbacks, but I will say I feel like I like Mendoza about the same, but I've come around on the thing that could make him really special, which is the size and the ability to throw through contact, which doesn't really exist in like a lot of the guys in this class. And like, especially in a lot of, like, you look at a lot of smaller guys in the way that's kind of become, and we've talked about this before, like guys like Kyler, people have soured on him. People got sour on Bryce Young, and they're coming back around on him maybe a little bit more, but just like the smaller quarterback trend has kind of died down a little bit, and Mendoza's the antithesis of that. And we've seen him kind of throw and take hits high and the ball still come out with velocity over the middle. And those are things that people are really, really excited about. And I can get behind it, right? So I can understand that excitement. And he is my QB1, but I just don't have a first round grade on him.
I think Mendoza is a first round grade. Yeah. Like, for a quarterback, certainly somewhere picks 1 through 32. I think there's a place for him.
I understand it.
I think that he's, like you said, tall, great frame, long levers, I think help him see the middle of the field, access checkdowns in a muddy pocket, all the good things that come with that, eat up space on the run. I think he's a really good runner.
Yes.
I think that that's something that is very underrated with him because he always gets these Goff comps or these Matt Ryan comps, but he's legitimately fast.
I think a lot of people say Goff with wheels, though, honestly. I really do. The thing about Mendoza is that he's not very elastic, but he is a pretty decent runner, but it's not always the prettiest. You can just say it like that, I think.
I think that he is a little elastic. I think some of the cuts that he makes, I think he can make you miss a little bit. I think that his footwork's pretty good. I think that he is really good about getting down and not taking huge hits like downfield and keeping himself healthy. I think about the Ohio State game and he got lit up there, but that was like, rolling out, trying to complete a pass under pressure. Like once he starts going downfield, he can rip off some pretty big ones and he really can cut. He really can cut and like keep his footing. I don't think he's as clumsy as maybe I originally thought at times, like watching him live. As I watched through more film, I'm like, okay, this guy can make you miss a little bit. I don't know, or keep his feet or split a double and keep running or something like that. I think that's something that's very tantalizing about him is like, look, he's got the frame and the accuracy to be, a Jared Goff, even though that's not really his play style right now. But he's also got, he's got the wheels. So he is good in that way. I think that that's enough. He's definitely a lot more accurate than Allar, like a lot more. Beck. I think he's
Simpson
by far. So I think the wheels plus the accuracy are reasons to pick him in the first round at some point in the first round because I have concerns about him too.
He's got a big arm.
I think it's good enough. I don't think it's huge.
He's got a big arm. He can really drive the ball. I totally disagree.
I think that's where I think it's good enough. I think that it's something that
it's good.
I think some of the deep balls can fall short a little bit. I don't think that it's crazy in that way. I don't see him. I think he's loose. I think he's fluid. I think he's got good mechanics on the run to throw it, but I also don't think it's like, I don't see a lot of like fade away and still drive it. Like he's stepping into everything when he drives it. Like, I don't think he's the same kind of natural arm talent that like an Allar is, or some of like the real elite arm talent guys of the league, but he can drive it certainly.
Caleb Williams.
No. So I wouldn't say it's great, but I think it's fine to put a good label on it.
I will
good enough
say,
label on it.
I kind of think you're both right. I think when his mechanics are perfect, his deep accuracy and placement is on it. Like he can really let it rip. But there are times where he kind of he tries to over muscle a throw, and that's when it's not placed well on those outs, on those deep outs on the sideline, or they come up short on a deep ball, right? And like the example that I have always pointed to is like he does back-to-back like 45-yard throws on a drive. The first one is a perfectly placed ball on the right sideline, and the second one is, I think, a post that comes up a little bit short and winds up being incomplete.
You're talking about the Iowa game?
I think that is the Iowa game, right? And so maybe it's like he can't throw those like monster plays back to back to back to back to back with consistency right now, but I think he does have the arm talent to deliver those passes when he needs to at least once.
I think in the Ohio State game that they took an early shot to Omar Cooper, who had a step, and that one was pretty short and kind of behind him. I was like, that one you'd like to see out a bit more in front. He took a shot to, I think, Becker on a post, and it went plenty far. It was a little bit behind. And then he hit the post in the second half Surratt, I think. And I thought that was like kind of an encapsulation of like, look, you can look at the Omar Cooper one from early and say like, oh, that felt pretty short. That was a chance for a big play, but at the end of the day, he can still be explosive, and he can still hit that post, and he can still hit those goes, and he can still drive it on the move because he is, I think, a little bit elastic. And look, like, I don't think Burrow is a crazy arm talent, right? You can go the whole season and like not notice because he can hit the go and he can hit the out routes. He's got enough to do that. I think it hurts him more maybe on the move, turning down some intermediate things to scramble or some things like that. Like only when you watch the all 22 do you see like a couple examples maybe over the course of the game where he's like, maybe he turned that down where somebody else would have ripped it and he scrambled for it, or maybe he needs to scramble for it instead of hitting it in structure, and that's why he runs around so much. But he makes it work. He's got a play style and an athleticism and a timing and an accuracy to be like, yeah, even though these balls float a little bit and there is a little bit more arc than other players, like he's still, you don't feel it over the course of a season, I think, very much. And I think that's where I'm at with Mendoza's arm of like, yeah, maybe there's a couple times where it'll be you wish there was a little bit more.
Burrow. I think he has a bigger arm than Burrow.
I do too.
But
yeah.
Not quite as big as Goff. I think people underestimate how big Goff's arm is.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's good enough. I don't think it's like a big. I think he'll hit deep shots. I think he'll hit throws on the move. So it's fine.
I don't think
it's a good arm.
Yeah. But Theo, you texted in our group chat that only God can judge your QB takes. So I need to know where you have.
We didn't even really get into the negatives with Mendoza.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. Well, only God can judge my quarterback takes because I do think like there are some issues with Mendoza that make him catchable for other quarterbacks. Like when Orlovsky comes on and says I prefer Ty Simpson, and everyone's like, how can you say that? Like look at the consensus big board. Like Mendoza, everyone has Mendoza number one. Like it's okay to nitpick Mendoza, and it's okay to not have him as like this Joe Burrow caliber prospect or a below average number one overall pick. I think those things are all true with Mendoza. I've got some big issues with him as well, even though he's got the deep ball and some of the mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he absolutely has some negatives, right? I mean, it's first off, Indiana's offense was incredibly simple, right? It was incredibly heavy on RPOs, and he executed that well, but it does leave some questions as to how is he going to translate to a pro style offense, right? Where he has to get through bigger, more complicated reads. On top of that, like his pocket presence is really not very good. When he comes under pressure, his feet get super choppy and he probably takes more sacks than you would like. When he's comped to Jared Goff, people are talking about a big quarterback who's like solidly accurate with like a nice arm or whatever word we want to use, who can struggle under pressure. Now, I think Mendoza's upside is higher than what Goff is right now. If he, takes a couple of years and really develops under Kubiak and gets comfortable learning NFL offenses and whatnot, then he could be, a Goff type with those sort of tools, but then much more mobility. And maybe he won't be like a Cam Ward artist out of the pocket, like type of first overall guy that we're looking at, or like he's not going to be Josh Allen, right? But Goff with, a baseline creation ability and mobility would be pretty good, even if there still are some struggles when it comes to just like being under pressure. I think that's the vision for Mendoza, and I think the Raiders taking that first overall is a fine choice, just with how tough it is to find a QB, even if I don't view Mendoza as like the greatest first overall quarterback prospect we've ever seen. And I think most people actually agree with that, honestly. My feeling with his flaws are like learning an NFL offense seems very possible. Learning to get better at dealing with pressure is pretty difficult, but there are a number of guys who are still pretty successful, even with that being something you always hold your breath about.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Jones for the longest time was like the bad under pressure guy, right? Particularly with fumbles. And he ended up just having a very impressive season. Right now, it took 7 years for that to unfold, but
Daniel Jones has a lot more very bad play.
Right. Yeah, Mendoza I think has a much higher floor on that aspect than Daniel Jones did.
Yeah. The pressure stuff is what concerns me the most with Mendoza. Like, it's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. It's pretty bad. Like, looking at the pressure to sack rate numbers, I looked at I think about 50 seasons from guys in this class over the last 3 years. And Mendoza's pressure to sack rate over those 50 seasons was 21st percentile in 2025, first percentile in 2024. So about as bad as it gets from anybody. Yeah. And 40th percentile in 2023. It was never above.
I know the numbers. I didn't know it was first percentile.
First percentile in 2024.
25.6% is the pressure to sack rate.
Mm-hmm. And I looked at when he holds the ball beyond 2.5 seconds, right? So he's starting to get into third and fourth reads, starting to get into, creation territory. I looked at turnover-worthy plays, sacks, and throwaways, and Mendoza's never been below 20%, those negative plays on kind of extension scenarios, 21.2% in 25, 26.9% in 24, 22.6% in 23. Just to give you a baseline of like where other guys are at, Allar was at 11% last year. Simpson was at 15%. The entire 2020 quarterback class with like Love, Herbert, Hurts, Burrow, Tua, all those guys were between like 13 and 18%. So Mendoza is kind of in a danger zone with, I think, some of these pressure numbers. And he really doesn't want to be a guy that paints outside the lines much at all. Now we had these concerns with Jaden Daniels a couple years ago, and it ended out
immediately what I think of.
Right. So I looked at him too, and his pressure to sack rate is 20%, which is better than some Mendoza seasons, worse than other Mendoza seasons.
It was like 30 the year before, though.
Yeah, and it was really bad the year before. But that Heisman year at LSU, he also held the ball a lot longer. So he's kind of impacting the game more with his legs there. A fewer percentage of his sacks were kind of charted as on him by PFF than Mendoza. His EPA numbers were higher because he was such an elite scrambler, and his team situation was a little bit worse because I think his defense was so bad and he was always in shootouts.
Sure, but the offensive situation was not like a disaster there.
I agree, but when you're always in shootouts and you've got to put points on the board, I think that does a lot for kind of your offensive infrastructure. I think that's fair to say. I mean, LSU didn't make the college football playoff, I think, that year, and Indiana won the national championship.
I'm not saying that LSU is as good as Indiana. That's not the point that I'm getting at. I'm saying that the defense is saying, well, he's in shootouts.
I mean, that matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah, I don't think
Burrow's in a bad situation. Like, Burrow's in a bad situation because of his
for defense. Winning the Super Bowl, though. But when Burrow puts up, great passing yard numbers or offensive stats, do you say, well, you have to understand his defense is bad, he's in a shootout? No.
I think when he's more efficient on higher volume, it does matter some. Plus, I think like the offensive infrastructure around Mendoza is pretty good too. I mean, it's not Malik Neighbors good, but like the pass protection is probably better. Like the play calling protects him a little bit more. He's can probably hand it off and not do it all himself a little bit more. Like it doesn't matter anyway. I think holding the ball longer and having a higher EPA and less of your sacks being charted on you makes Jaden Daniels' 2023 season in a bit of a different tier than Mendoza's 2025 season. That's more what I'm getting at, I think.
Sure.
So like you can say like, oh, well, Jaden, right. He had a bad pressure to sack and he translated to the league pretty well, right? He won Rookie of the Year. He went to the NFC Championship game. I just think Mendoza's season is a little bit below where Jaden's was even coming into the league, and his pressure to sack. This all to say, his pressure to sack numbers are even more concerning probably than Jaden's. Is where I'm at. And on tape, I think you see him drop his eyes, and you see him like look at defensive linemen kind of around him, and scramble in some honestly like nonsensical ways. Sometimes I feel like burning up space in the pocket instead of sliding around. Like for somebody who's supposed to be like, oh, he's so fundamentally sound. Like he's the big fundamental, like Brady, like Goff, like Matt Ryan. Like he's really not in terms of pocket movement, I think.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely not. And that's sort of, that's sort of
it's a big concern to me.
It's interesting
it's a big
the way that plays out. But I don't know. I again, when I see people talk about Mendoza who are really like, I don't know, like outside of just TikTok comments.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people would agree that his footwork gets choppy in the pocket. No?
I don't think people are concerned nearly enough.
That I think is a fair point. I think most people would agree with you though. It's the disagreement is how much do we weight that? That's the conversation we're having more than anything, I think.
I weight it pretty heavily. I think the one thing I almost prioritize more than anything else is, can you get touched in the pocket? Someone's putting hands on you in the pocket. Your eyes are still downfield. I think that kind of physicality and that kind of poise, especially if you're talking about like not anybody, any archetype of quarterback, whether you're mobile or a pocket passer. Andrew Luck, when people put hands on him, his eyes were downfield. Tom Brady, when someone put hands on him, his eyes were downfield. Like, I just don't think that is the case at all with Fernando Mendoza. And that is the heart of my issue with him, of like, man, are you just going to take sacks at a 10% clip in the NFL? Like that is my concern. That is my big concern.
I think, look, I'll say one thing that I feel like you can really see coming a mile away, regardless of what your thoughts are on like how good of a prospect he is that he's going to go to the Raiders and their offensive line. Miller will be back and you got Linderbaum there, but it probably still like might not be that great in pass pro. And Mendoza is going to be trying to go to a more pro style offense. And I would bet that he takes a pretty good number of sacks, and we're going to spend the season saying like, well, you can't blame him for that. The Raiders offensive line is so bad, and it'll be like half true. So you don't want to really argue against it, but he's going to take a lot of sacks and some of it will be on him, and no one will want to, do the, make the point that really it's kind of like both parties causing that rather than just the offensive line,
Yep. I think the thing that people like, though, is the fact that it's an RPO thing, right? The fact that he's from this quick game system. Like, because is that not how a lot of these offenses are kind of being built out now?
No, I think these offenses are being built out outside of like Philly and Indianapolis.
Sure.
And certainly Clint Kubiak is a turn your back to the defense and roll out. And we're going to work off our stretch that we signed Tyler Linderbaum for type play, which is the complete opposite of what Mendoza is working on. And it'll be interesting to see how he translates. I mean, play action can help you tremendously, right? But he has really no experience hitting like digs and inbreakers. It's all kind of outside the numbers stuff. As a prospect, he does remind me of like a Jaden Daniels more than anybody else, where it's like kind of go ball and QB draw type offense, right?
Except Jaden was a freak athlete.
Was a freak, but Mendoza is elusive, he is elusive. Like he can make the first guy miss. He can bounce off contact. Like there's no reason why he can't be a better sack eluder, because he is elusive. It's nerves, I feel like, in the pocket. It's dropping your eyes. It's looking around. It's like not quite having or wanting to do micro movements to kind of make you miss. It's like, oh, I'm a full on sprint, and then he kind of just like runs into somebody. That's where I'm at. But he is elusive. But yeah, it'll be hard for him, I think, or it'll be a big transition, I think, to be like, oh, I'm hitting the cover 3 hole shot between the linebackers on these digs, right? I'm constantly targeting Brock Bowers instead of Elijah Surratt on the sideline, right? It is a big transition. It's a big curve, I think, because it is a very different offense that he's going to now.
Yeah. So where do you guys have him on your lists here?
My quarterback 1.
I think I am going to go with him at 1. I think that he is. We'll get to Allar.
I was prepared to have a clippable moment, Theo, and you've robbed me of that.
Allar is the style of quarterback that I like more, and I think there are things about Allar's game that translate. He's just not accurate, and I do like Mendoza's movement and elusiveness even a little bit more than Allar. I was telling people that I like Allar more in the weeks leading up to this, like someone coming out of the closet calling just to see how it feels. Like, call a random number and tell them, and just get used to it. That's what I was doing with Allar, but I wasn't saying it to the world because I just wasn't sure. And I watched a little bit more Allar, and we'll get into Allar. And I think that there's a top tier that Mendoza is in with other people. I don't think he's like number 1 by like a mile, where he's Joe Burrow and Allar's like a useless piece of shit. Because that's literally what it feels like the consensus is right now, is like, here's Joe Burrow and here's a backup. I think they're in the same tier. But I am going to put Mendoza 1. I just think the accuracy and the movement skills are there with Mendoza. I just really am scared about some of the things about the translation, but I also think Allar needs time to develop. I think he needs to be a Jordan Love, sit on the bench. Like, right. I don't want the same thing to happen to him as
dude. Let's just talk about Allar. Let's just talk about Allar. He is the 4th QB on the consensus big board, which puts him at 115th overall. I'm imagining you're disagreeing with that.
I strongly disagree.
Which I'm on your side there. I do think he's a better prospect than maybe he's being billed as, and I think that's been true for a couple of years. The problem that I have with he needs to develop thing, which I also agree with, that because he does have a lot of problems with accuracy and everything, is that this is his 3rd year now as a starter, and has he really gotten better? So it's like, how much more development is going to actually change that? That's where I can understand him.
Oh, he could be in a better place in Penn State.
That's true. The receiver.
That's what makes this such a difficult evaluation. Is it's just been such a saga with Allar. That's the reason why people don't like Allar. First off, people just hate toolsy quarterbacks who have to develop, right? There's this weird simultaneous, and like, I get it, but there's this weird sort of simultaneous, like, it feels like the consensus opinion is we need to let quarterbacks actually develop. But I also hate any quarterback that is like worth developing.
I think people hate the aesthetic of the quarterback who's athletic. Like, people hate the idea that it's not all about the IQ and just the knowledge of the game and diagnosing all the coverages. And it is about those things, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's mountains and mountains of evidence now that you want an athletic quarterback. Like, you want Josh Allen, and you want Lamar,
look at the top
you want
10
May, you want Caleb. Look at the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And then people always come at me like, when are you going to give up this like traitsy thing? And it's like, Sam Darnold just won the Super Bowl. I should have been forgiving him way more, because he always had the tools, and he was in such a bad situation.
Right.
Like, I should have been doing it more. Like, there's been nothing at all that has made me think like, I got to give up this like big guy, stands in the pocket, big arm. Like, I liked May a ton. I thought any other draft, he'd be the first overall pick. What does he do year 2? He's MVP runner-up. He leads the league in EPA per play. I loved Caleb Williams. What does he do? Brings the Bears to the divisional round. He's going to be their first 4,000-yard passer in their history. Trevor Lawrence, what does he do? Oh, boy, are you still doing this Trevor Lawrence thing? Are you still in on this? What does he do? Locks in one of the best quarterbacks in the league the second half of the year, right?
Unbelievable
production once
the Trevor
Jacoby
Lawrence
Myers showed
thing,
up.
Theo, the Trevor Lawrence thing isn't even anything that you really should have to defend. How many receivers have they had that just like can't catch?
Sure, yeah, and then they get one and it gets better.
Right, every single time.
it's people don't want to believe that like frame matters and arm talent matters and mobility matters. Like
it's more so that people don't like the guys that are real like projections. Right.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why it feels like it's a little hard to win with this stuff sometimes is because the second that anybody makes it, they stop being a traitsy guy who's projection, like Lamar, for instance.
Right.
The only guy who cannot shake this is Josh Allen, who is so far and away, like he's the grand traits working out that he could never shake it. But I think a lot of guys actually, like Herbert, for example, right, was drafted off of traits versus, the more well put together or whatever Tua. And it's like, how is that gone? Right.
Yeah, it's gone great.
I think, look, I'm just saying, like,
can I say one more thing about that?
Sure.
I think the other thing that people hate is Allar's a 5-star recruit. Why? Because of traits. And then he comes in and you're expecting him to be the Josh Allen of Penn State or something, like someone who just gets on the field and dominates, and then he falls short. And then you get the label of, this is the guy that will get a GM fired. Like, this is the guy who you'll take him because you fall in love with all the athleticism, but everybody ignores the fact that he can't really just play the quarterback position. That's where people start to really think, like, you can overrate these things because of the quote, like, your potential is going to get me fired. That's what people are really.
You can overrate those things.
And you can.
I mean,
and
there's a balance that you have to find with it. I think the other
there's
thing
a reason
is, like,
why you look. There's a reason why
people just hate Penn State.
That doesn't.
People just hate.
They can't stand Penn State.
And they just, I didn't know this. Where does this come from?
Well, just because they're a big Big Ten brand, and there's a lot of Ohio State fans and Michigan fans, and Penn State had a big scandal, and there's a lot of reasons.
Well, I'm more getting at, like, kind of the saga that has gone on with Allar, right?
Okay.
Like, it's been years and years of, like, okay, I think about the Ohio State games, right? 2023, Allar goes into Columbus, and what happens? Like, they go 0 for 16 on third downs to start the game or whatever, and none of those receivers can get open, and Allar, like, has like a really tough interception down the field, and he's like missing throws and trying to hit guys who are pretty covered on outs, and he's not making it. It's like, okay, our receivers are really bad, but it's the transfer era. We're gonna go get our guys, like, get a decent baseline there, and things are gonna be different. 2024 rolls around, and Ohio State isn't the only game that happened, of course, but it's just the one that I immediately think of. And, like, what happens in the 24 Ohio State Penn State game? This time it's at Penn State. It turns into, like, they're running like trick play BS for half the game, man. It's like Tyler Warren direct snap, that type of stuff. It feels like they can't even run a real offense. And you know what? You turn on the 2025 tape and it feels like it's the exact same thing. And between that and James Franklin just not being a big game winner, and Allar, for whatever you want to blame, has a tendency for just back-breaking, mind-boggling interceptions. I mean, the one to end the Oregon game this year was just like,
it's so bad.
You can't even figure out what the hell he was looking at. Or the one against Northwestern this year in the end zone is just like, neither of them make any type of sense. So, like, some of the negativity around Allar is earned, but I also think, like, it's very tough to judge him because I think that Penn State has been a very bad place to be, quite frankly. I think the receivers have been unbelievably bad for a team as talented and as hyped as Penn State has been. That is easily that has to be the place they're the weakest at. And it just makes everything more difficult in a way that can be a little difficult to see on the broadcast. So people are just sick of Penn State.
Yeah.
They're sick of hearing about Allar. They don't like the traitsy guys. And there's some truth to that. And there's some stuff that Allar does that fits him into that mold that I think people put him in. There's a lot. I mean, like,
Allar is irresponsible. He's inconsistent. He's
But when we're talking, to be clear, we're talking about a guy who's got a 4th round consensus grade right now. And, you know, if we want to sit here and say like, well, he's not going to work out, it's like, I think, you know, you don't go to the roulette table and say it's not going to be 32 and then win a whole bunch of money when you're right. So I think there's some level of, you know, understanding when we talk about him that like we're talking about dart throws. But I think there's some really good traits that make him an interesting dart throw in a way where I agree. I see comments where it's like I forget who it was, but someone was like trying to explain themselves as to like why they kind of liked Allar as, you know, somebody to take a shot on maybe in the 3rd round or something, which think about the standard of quarterback play that gets drafted in the 3rd round, you know, like Will Grier and Matt Corral are the Panthers that come to mind. And it's like, okay.
Respect Matt Corral, first of all.
Or like Kellen Mond, shout out. Or like Kyle Trask was a 2nd rounder. And it's not that like Dylan Gabriel was a 3rd rounder last year. Like it's, you know, when you're a quarterback picked in the 3rd round, it's a long shot, right?
I think Allar, first of all, you can just look at the statistics and Allar's like not even that bad. Like that's the crazy thing is he's not just this frame. I'm the old guy from Moneyball. Look at him. He looks like a quarterback. He actually was more productive than everybody gives him credit for. Like in 2024, his EPA per play was 0.224. So that's about 1/4 of a point every time he drops back. That's pretty good. That's not too far below where Mendoza was at this year, 0.306. Like it's in an elite tier, I think, for the quarterbacks in this class, 2024 Allar. In 2023, it was also pretty good, 0.130, not a concerning number at all, like pretty solid. In 2025, it was more mid, but it was 0.059. So pretty neutral, but not anything kind of concerning. Any kind of concerning. Pressure to sack rate over the course of his career, pretty damn good. All right,
one of the best in this class.
One of the best in this class, right? So he's somebody who can maneuver the pocket. He's somebody who is explosive. He's somebody who can rip off a big run. Like he's been taken for granted. I think he has been taken for granted of like just this disappointment when in actuality, like he kind of did leave Penn State better than where he found it. And he did make a pretty deep playoff run in 2024, even though it ended up with a loss.
I disagree with that. I don't think Penn State's in a better spot than they were when Allar got there.
Well, maybe not that, but like 2024 Penn State was like a high point for Penn State, I think.
It was completely foo-foo though.
Sure, but they maybe, but that's the thing about Al is like you'd think he just did nothing. Like he's never won a big game, never won a playoff game. It's like they put up.
Has he won a big game?
They won a playoff game.
Has he won
against
what, like SMU or who was it?
Boise. They look Penn State. Nah,
he said Ashton's Genty packing, bro.
This is the guy Orlovsky should have been asking
versus Allar.
Okay, maybe that's a fucking stretch, but. I don't know. I just think you expect all the numbers to be like negative. The way people talk about it is like he comes in with all these tools and that's it. It's
not Anthony Richardson in terms of.
It's not Anthony Richardson. He's won a lot of games in his career, not big games, but he's won a lot of games. He's put up a lot of numbers. Like the 2024 season was like pretty solid for him.
21 big time throws according to PFF at a 5.1% clip is pretty nice.
It's nice. His overall turnover-worthy play rate is not like a disaster, but they just happen at the worst moments.
What is his turnover-worthy play?
Over his career, 1.7%.
What's Mendoza's?
Mendoza's over his career is 3.5.
So half of Mendoza's turnover-worthy play rate over the course of his career? You wouldn't like. No one would know that. No one would expect that. And you think about the pressure avoidance, like the Allar might be better at avoiding negative plays than Mendoza. I say that no one would agree with me.
Yeah.
Like, no, but the numbers flesh it out very clearly.
The sack rate, the pressure to sack rate for Mendoza is higher.
But
I mean, I do have concerns.
Honestly, I think it's hard to even put together an argument that would disagree with that.
It is, it's just
because
true.
Mendoza, at least last year, Cal is different, but at least last year played in an offense that would make it easier, right, to make quick decisions and get the ball out. Whereas truly, I cannot stress enough, Penn State's receivers have been so bad for the entire time that Allar's been there. They haven't had somebody like legit since Dotson.
It is unbelievable the amount of times Allar has to throw a pass and the receiver is like 5 steps away from breaking. Like, he's just like, well, I can't wait for you to get open, bro. Like, I got to throw this. And the receiver's like, they haven't even made their move at the top of the route yet. And Allar's releasing the ball. And it's like, I feel for you, man. Like, there's a play against Ohio State in 2023 where he like rescues a bad snap. It's the top of his drop. There's someone bearing down on him. And he's like, it's man coverage. I want to get to my skinny post. He throws the skinny post. Like, all this has happened. The receiver's not even close to breaking. And then when he turns around, the ball just whizzes right past his face mask. That happens over and over and over and over and over again with Allar over the course of 3 years. And that makes his accuracy look a whole heck of a lot worse compared to like Beck in Miami. Number 7's making circus catches. Like, I'm throwing it.
Do you know how many times I'm watching Carson Beck and I'm like, dude, your highlights aren't even your highlights. They're your
Number 7's one-handing it in the seam with a safety bearing down. Like, it's such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now the thing that bothers me about Allar is there's also several just egregious misses.
He has some real psycho misses. That's a concern more than bad placement. It's just like how
it's a spray out
for sure.
It's a spray out, and it's nowhere even close. And I feel like he loses his handle over the course of a big game. Like the things start to fall away, and he doesn't totally meet the moment, or it's like, we need to move the chains here. It's just a simple out route. There it is. It's open. The receiver is there on time, and it's just miles away. The end of the Ohio State game in 2023, like, he cannot buy a bucket for the entire second half of that game. Like, the first half, I'm like, okay, this isn't totally your fault. Your receivers are. And then the second half, it's like, bro, I cannot defend this. Like, the throw is not within a mile of you.
May I propose
of your
a
target,
question?
that is. So that is the concern with him, is like, that's what's Richardson about him, is like he cannot hit the broadside of a barn for like an entire quarter.
Right.
That is true. It is not. It is not.
Why did Allar never transfer?
I'm assuming because he just likes Penn State and trusted Franklin.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, the protection was good. Like, maybe like those linemen, like, I get Vega Ione and Olufashi.
But you would think he would have, like, you would think he definitely had offers. Like, he definitely would have had chances.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure, yeah, anywhere.
I just, in this era of the transfer, like, I just can't imagine that you would stay given the receiver situation, the way the prospect.
He didn't go to the draft situation. He could have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he just thought the receiver situation would improve most likely. And Penn State overall is still a pretty talented team, even in 2024, for sure. They had good players. I don't want to make it out like Penn State was totally terrible, or that like James Franklin did nothing at Penn State. They had good running backs, and but like the passing game limitations made it so where it was just really tough to beat teams that they weren't out talenting. And I think a lot of I don't even think Franklin's going to do a bad job at Virginia Tech or whatever, but I also am a little frustrated when you sit back and you watch these games, even from just like a perspective of trying to, look at Allar. And of course you go and you watch the big ones or whatever. It's clear that like Penn State not beating teams of equal talent is a little bit more than just like one score games can break against you. Right. But I think a lot of people in college football media try to play it that way, where it's like, it's just the one score games being, unlucky or whatever. Right. And I think unfortunately, like, Penn State's big weakness really, really affected Allar too, as much as Allar had his own issues. And that makes him a really difficult evaluation. Of course, the wheels just totally fell off this year. What Penn State was in 24 versus what they were in 25, it's like well, then you're having issues against Northwestern and UCLA, and the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah. But even so, like, Allar had his most accurate season yet from an on-target perspective in 2025. He still posted a great pressure to sack rate. It wasn't even all bad for him. I do think, like, I think the game against Oregon, I thought he was kind of balling out in that game until the end when he throws a meatball. But like,
it's just,
he gets to the backside, he throws a dig, and he throws it against leverage because there's a middle hole player there. So he's like, I'm going to put it on your back shoulder. He has a play where he hits the top of his drop and immediately there's two people rushing him and he steps up in the pocket and like kind of flips it out in a cool way. And then later he tries to do the same thing and then realizes he's not going to split those guys. So he steps back and throws, gets hit by two people, like fading away. It converts a 3rd and 8 way downfield. It was crazy.
He's got a huge arm and he can generate power off bad platforms with the flick.
The throw against Oregon in the Big Ten
he really has a
game.
great, fantastic arm in terms of strength.
The throw against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game in 2024 when they're down, I think 2 scores. This is to make it a 1-score game. He gets dragged down by his like collar and throws it and splits the seam between the free safety and the corner. It's like, that's Rodgers shit, bro. That's Rodgers against Jacksonville, week 1, 2016, I think. Like, I haven't seen a throw like that since then. Like, seriously. But you just, and then it comes time to actually win that game. They're down 8 with like 2 minutes left. He throws a go. Of course, the receiver doesn't get separation vertically. He doesn't stack vertically. Allar still throws it when a crosser is open and he hangs it inside and it's picked. So it's like, yeah, the wide receiver wasn't open. That sucks that you don't have Charlie Becker to get that bucket one-on-one on the outside. But at the same time, that was a terrible throw and you didn't have to throw it. You could have gone to the number 3 and the 4.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like with Allar, it's like, you know, there's just a lot of things coming together to make people dislike him. And it's not like I think he's some perfect like prospect. So it limits how much I really want to go like to war for him. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I think a lot of the criticisms are fair. I just think like some of his positives are then like completely dismissed when it's like, no, there's some traits here that actually make him a pretty decent shot. That's where I land on Allar. I mean, and I think between Penn State's offense being an issue, but them still being talented enough to like kind of always be ranked high. What would happen is like you'd have the Penn State hype, but then they weren't well equipped to win big games. And then that's when everyone watched. And then Allar cannot help himself throwing like truly unexplainable picks. And so it creates this cycle of people like hearing the hype and then them missing it. And that's what makes people dislike him.
That's what makes people dislike him because he's always underwhelming when they watch Penn State. Is like, this is Drew Out. This is the guy everyone. So he just threw the. It's like if you watched Josh Allen and just turned it on at the end of the second half of the Broncos. It's not that good at all. It's not that good at all. But
he's not the athlete that Allen is. But
no, he's not that elusive.
There are a lot of like, I'm lateraling this backwards type of plays at the end of games. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of.
He's not even cold enough to try the lateral Drew Allar. Like he doesn't have all those movement options available to him. He's a bit hammer-headed as a runner. He's got a little bit of sauce, but it's not like, he's okay.
Honestly, I think he's got enough to like make you pay if you totally ignore him, and he can do stuff in the backfield and like roll out at a baseline level, right? Versus like, frankly, not to get into the next guy, but Nussmeier, I feel like lacks even that, and it makes me really concerned with aspects of his game. So I think with Allar, honestly, like one of the dudes that I think of, I don't think they play similarly, but I think some of the positive signifiers remind me, everybody hated Tyler Shuck. And I wasn't like that crazy high on him. But I wish I had been a little bit higher even, because what did we say? Like, well, like the arm is not bad and he doesn't take sacks and his turnover worthy play rate is like not that crazy, but he had that truly horrific interception that went around Twitter, and it's like, no way, really. And I don't know if Shuck is going to end up being like the guy forever for the Saints. Like, he hasn't played that much, but I think in second round pick world, he's done a I thought it was pretty legit last year, honestly.
Yeah,
I thought
for sure.
it was pretty decent. So I guess my point with that is less that they're a 1-to-1 comp and more that like a guy that is sort of like given an eye roll with maybe some vague similarities in terms of like positive signifiers can actually be a decent dart throw. And I think Allar is worthy of a decent dart throw.
To me, Allar high end is like the Jordan Love. Because what was Jordan Love's last year at Utah State? It was bad. Like he threw a bunch of terrible picks.
I like that because they really share that trait of like, bro, they don't throw that many interceptions.
And then you watch him and it's like, I just saw
what it says on the stat sheet, but I'm watching the TV right now, bro, and I just saw Mike Jackson.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you just
exactly.
saw all of his interceptions for the season in one game. You know?
Jordan Love in 2024, literally like historic all-time good avoiding negative plays, interception and sacks. And it's like, it doesn't matter because he'll get a little bit too much dip on his chip in a big moment.
Right.
So that's like Allar high end is like, wow, he had some time to sit and he just got a little bit better, and the traits were worth betting on, even though there were meatballs. And yeah, like that's high end. And then I think maybe a more realistic outcome is like some sort of Carson Wentz. Like his elusiveness strategy is like duck down and hope he like bucks someone off his back type scenes. Big plays, maybe one season where he's a third down and long merchant making cool plays, but like overall just the consistency is not quite there.
Sure.
Maybe he's like a Carson Wentz type pick, and then low end he's like Anthony Richardson. Like, yeah, the sack avoidance is there.
He's that inaccurate.
He's not.
Truly, he's not.
I don't think so either. But he's also not that fast.
No.
Sure.
So it's not a perfect comp. But I think Allar, I think he could be Jordan Love. I think if you took him and stashed him, I think he could have that kind of career. I really do. I think
so.
He's
Where
got that kind of arm.
Does that outcome play out?
That's a good question. Like, where would you like to see him
McVay,
go?
Please save us.
Seriously, yeah, that's exactly where.
Yeah, I would love to see him there. For the right price, I think it's worthy. And you got Stafford, who's coming off an MVP season, a little bit older. We've talked about this before.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see them take a shot on somebody if they feel like it's right.
Allar's still just 22 years old too. Like, even though he stayed that extra year, it's not like he's coming in and like, oh, if he waits 3 years, he'll be 27.
A few weeks ago. So
I could maybe see. I mean, Pittsburgh obviously needs anybody.
The thing is that like, I guess I question how likely is the accuracy to get better, because it probably needs to be like a pretty nice jump. And I think that can be tough sometimes for guys to really grow in that sense. I have more faith in Mendoza to get comfortable running an NFL offense.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Mendoza's accuracy being so far ahead makes it pretty.
That's why I'm Mendoza over Allar for sure, I think. But he's got a high ceiling.
Allar's completion percentage was a little bit higher than Love's in college, and he never had. Love had 17 picks in 2019. 17 picks.
Beast.
20 touchdowns, 17 picks.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's more touchdowns than interceptions is what I heard, man.
Boom.
He was at 32 and 6 the year before. Shout out.
We're better than Namath. Let's go.
Better than Namath.
And that's in college, mind you. Just imagine how special this guy's going to be.
So, Matt, where do you have Allar on your
I have
list?
a quarterback too.
Oh, okay. So we all have, this is so far a perfect consensus. Is Mendoza 1, Allar 2.
Do we want to get into Ty Simpson? Because it's a hot take to not have him as quarterback too.
It is.
It is a hot take to not have him as quarterback too. My hot take might be that he's definitely not in my top 3. And then I'm very torn on if he's going to be.
He's not in my top 3. There's someone I like more than him.
I'm very torn if he's going to be in my top 5.
He is in my top 5.
But hell else.
The thing is, so I'm
we got a Haynes King super fan.
Well, I like Klubnik a decent amount, and then But I do think I like Simpson more than Beck. Beck sucks.
Yeah.
I like
You
Beck more
know.
than Simpson.
Oh,
Beck
dude,
is my
I
three.
can't. No, dude.
Let's get into Simpson.
Let's talk
Let's
about
get into Simpson.
I get it with Simpson why people like him. Like for the first 10 or so weeks, like or whatever it was, I think he's clearly like operating an NFL offense compared to Mendoza. That's what Orlovsky was trying to get at. Right?
That is what he was trying to get at. Yes.
And of course, like he ended up going into Mendoza's never played in a big game, which is like okay.
And even that I got because he said his point when he said that was like there's bad tape of Mendoza in the Ohio State game, like which is true.
Yes,
Mendoza has a lot of throwaways, and he took some bad sacks in the Ohio State game. And he should have said, as a film analyst, am I supposed to throw those plays out? Or the national championship game, like
Right.
0 touchdowns, I think 0 picks, three sacks, something like that. Like a below average game by his standards. I think 5 or 6 other quarterbacks had more efficient games versus that Miami defense than Mendoza did. He should have said, like, am I supposed to give him ultimate credit because it was the national championship game when it was just kind of a ho-hum game against Miami, like over the course of their year? Instead, he said, what big games? Why would you put it that way? I understood it. And then he's trying to talk about like variety of reads. He said like he did not articulate a single point during that Orlovsky's that McAfee segment. I was like, bro, I understand, but why would you say it like that?
I think Simpson has a capacity to like make quick, good reads and like kind of make difficult throws in terms of like he'll layer stuff.
Sure.
Not just digs, like hole shots too. I totally see the vision on that type of stuff. And when he's going and like the accuracy is consistent or whatever, it can look pretty strong. On top of that, like he's fairly quick, I would say. He's not like an insane rusher or anything, but like he's quick enough to be a serious threat. Both as like someone who can capture the outside or just like run on you and make you pay. Like I'm pretty in there too. The big concern for me with him is just the arm is tough, and he's not, the size is tough. Like the overall tools, he's really working against it. And when I say the arm, it's like the strength is part of it. Like I think it's leaning towards like would definitely be below average for a starter.
Definitely.
Not total disaster territory, but like he's going to have to be really on time not to make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like really, really on top of it. But then also the accuracy, I don't think is particularly special. He has a tendency to, you know, to sail stuff too over the middle, or like when he's rolling out, you know, I think the accuracy can get a little bit iffy as well. So I think with both those things working against you, it can get really tough. And then, you know, if you're not a bigger stature, it's just tough to win like that in the NFL. I will say, like, you know, there's some guys who I don't think are physically imposing and who don't have crazy arms who hang around and make it work. And if you feel like he can really be the type of processor that you want, all right, like I can see taking a shot on him at some point. But between that and the fact that he's only started one season, which I really, really hate, it's like those are some really negative signifiers to me. Just a lack of tools and a lack of time. And I just feel maybe this is like just a totally reactionary opinion, which I guess we don't shy away from. But like, I
shy away from them. I don't know if I succeed.
But like, you watch Klubnik, like a guy I really like, just like completely collapse. You watch Sellers completely collapse. You watch Allar completely collapse in terms of draft stock.
Yeah.
You watch, you know, Simpson fade horribly down the stretch. You watch Nussmeier too. It's like, and I think like, what are the odds that the same thing would have happened to Simpson if he went back another year? And it's like, man, it feels like it's pretty decent. You're betting on like a 9-game sample size from him. and you're betting on that sample size on a guy without tools. So I'm just a little bit lower on him, but I see the vision. It's not like people are just kind of making something up out of thin air.
No,
When he was good, he was really good.
Yeah, I see the vision to some extent. The problem outside of the arm talent and the general tool stuff, which Matt, you've already brought up, of course, and you always talk about, like, when Bryce Young was at his absolute worst, it felt like he had to fight for his life just to get free from pressure before he could even like think about throwing. That's kind of the stuff that I see with Simpson sometimes, where it's like there's a play against LSU where he just kind of randomly spins around in the pocket and then eventually dumps it off to his running back, and I'm like, you could have done that without the like random pirouette. You know, like you didn't need to do all that like nonsense. And so it's not just like the traits thing for me. It's also the pocket management. Like I think it's even worse than Mendoza by a good margin, both because like he doesn't really have the ability to get away from these things, and the number of times where he just like panics in clean pockets is scary.
I think he has the ability to get away from guys as much as Mendoza.
It's not the ability to get away from guys that concerns me. It's the like, I'm in a clean pocket and I just leave it. I'm gone.
Yeah.
For someone whose big strength is like, they say, there's so many people that say this about every year, but it's like, you have to be Drew Brees, man. You're a 6'1" pocket passer. Like, you are Drew Brees. It happens every single year. You watch Gruden quarterback camp. I just talked about this with Blaiden.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
We recorded our best quarterbacks of the 2010s episode. And we talk about Brees being like the ultimate. He's like the Wes Welker of quarterbacks, Drew Brees. Where like every undersized guy who's not going to make it in the league, but like played wide receiver and like really wanted to be good, they all love Wes Welker. Why? Because Wes Welker was tiny and
he gave him hope, man.
He gave him hope. That's Drew Brees for like the JV quarterback who's like punching above his weight, and then the college prospect who did a good job at college and is now in the NFL and is just not going to make it. Like they go on Gruden's quarterback camp and Gruden's like, you got to be Drew Brees. He wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the strongest. Anyway.
You can't be.
You can't be.
Was drafted some time ago, and there has not been
another Drew Brees.
No.
I know. And if you are the next Drew Brees, I don't want to see you in a clean pocket with open receivers. Just, I'm a head out and just bail and turn your back and leave, and then fumble in a bunch of games in a row. And yeah, just overall, like I would say pocket management is a big negative. It's not that he's not quick. It's not that he isn't a little bit of a, have you ever chase a chicken type Kyler Murray twitchiness or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, he's got some twitch.
He's got some twitch, right? He can make you miss, but overall, there's a lot of big, like, what are we doing? Like that's the kind of thing that anyone can see. This is a bad pocket move with him. And yeah, like the whippiness through his his hip and his torso through his arm, I don't think it's all there, and the ball just doesn't really pop off his hands. And I think even when he's under pressure and he's trying to hit a check down, it can skip off the ground. It can skip off the ground because the arm's not there and the size isn't there, and he's trying to get it around somebody, and it's just this slashing low throw that just hits the turf.
Yeah.
And his accuracy is in a tier with Allar's instead of Mendoza, while having none of the like negative play avoidance. Yeah. None of the traits of either, definitely. And his EPA wasn't good. It was like his EPA was like in a tier with Allar's in 2025 more than anything before this. So it's like he wasn't efficient. He wasn't like he's not toolsy. Like I understand some of these flashes, some of these digs, some of the quickness about him, but like he's just a normal backup quarterback to me. Like he's like a Case Keenum type. I'm sure Case Keenum had some good reads and some good throws, or Colt McCoy, or I don't know, anybody. Like I don't really see it with him.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I were a GM and I had my big board, Simpson would not be on it, but I'm not a GM, and so I have to put Simpson on there somewhere.
There's a point where I think he's a somewhat flashy backup. He just doesn't have the tools to be a starter. Like, there's a place for him in the draft.
Yeah, sure. It's just not on my.
He's still my quarterback 3. I think I'm a little bit higher on him than you guys.
Okay.
I've got Beck there. Maybe he's my.
I don't have an issue with that.
You've got Beck at 3. I've got Nussmeier at 3.
What do you like about Nuss?
It's kind of really when he gets his feet under him and lets it rip, like, he's got a really nice arm. Like, I really am intrigued by kind of it's really the 2024 tape where you see, because I know he was dealing with an injury in 2025, but which I only just learned about recently. Like, I didn't
think everybody did. Everybody did.
Oh, okay. That's what I was like, was this like common knowledge that I just didn't know about? Because I was really worried. I was like,
people learned at the Senior Bowl.
Okay, that's good to know then. Yeah, because I'm like, if he was dealing with an injury, then I feel really comfortable about his ability to kind of throw with velocity, especially up the seam. Like, I feel like he's got a really good handle on that kind of stuff. He's got some nice touch. I feel like he's another guy that kind of did some pro style things more so than Mendoza did, which might be a low bar, right, as far as like pro style goes. And he can get rid of the ball quickly. Like, I feel like there is a level of, you could draft and start Nussmeier with some level of security in a way that, like, you absolutely could not do with Allar.
I don't think so.
I think
start him.
I think you could.
I don't think his arm was that impressive when I watched him over again. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little underwhelmed by it. I thought his arm was better than it actually ended up looking to me, and that's even in 2024.
Really,
being quite honest.
Okay.
His movement, I think, is a real issue. I don't think he has answers like getting outside of the pocket. You know, you think about like Caleb Williams is just so hard to go and get when he starts rolling. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be Caleb, but it's just like, I think of him as like the extreme, like, you know, and one of the best at doing that, right? You think about Nussmeier, it's the opposite. It just feels like it's so easy to get to him when he's trying to get outside of the pocket and make a play. I know he doesn't take a lot of sacks, so that's good.
Right.
But there is more to playing quarterback than just that. And I think as a smaller guy who just can't move much, and I wasn't as impressed by his arm, that really made him move down my board.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's probably like not taking a lot of sacks because he just gets the ball out, right?
His ADOT was really low. It's tough to know with the oblique injury stuff.
In
like,
2024, it was 9.5.
Yeah.
He was much saucier in 2024 than 2025.
He was. So, like, I really do think, like, the injury stuff probably played a pretty big role. My fear, because he's also really, I don't know if he's the smallest in this class, but he's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
Right. Is he even 200 pounds? He's
he was like 208, 202, I think.
At the combine is what it looks like, which is
Simpson.
5th percentile in weight, and he
was saucier in 2024. That is fair.
He was.
I can't say that any of I think drafting him with the plan for him to be your starter. So what round do you see him in? I guess that's my question.
I mean,
I was more on board with Nuss like not that long ago.
I'm not saying it would be like the plan to start him, but it would be like you draft him on like the Jets and like Geno Smith looks awful. And you're like, well,
I'll tell you,
we could put
any quarterback you draft like day 3 or 3rd round for the Jets, he's seeing pizza at the end of the year, most likely. And it's not at that point, it's like, you don't want to put in Allar because he'll lose you games. If you're the Jets, like you might actually put in Allar because he'll lose you games. If that's the situation we're talking about. So
my fear with Nuss though is that he ends up being Dylan Gabriel-esque, and I like
he's not that meek. No offense, but like
he's very aggressive. Like
yes,
yeah.
Gabriel
is like literally like 1st percentile.
In
like
size,
he's not
quite. He's not
quarterback
quite
since we've been doing this podcast for sure. Like, Gabriel is like a complete another level of small and small arm.
Yeah.
I guess maybe, I only watched a couple of games at 24. His arm, I wasn't like crazy impressed, like, but
it's bigger than
Gabriel. It wasn't Gabriel level, wasn't even close to that. I wasn't as wowed by it as I remembered being.
I feel like he could be Bo Nix-esque. Is kind
he's
of
not he's not mobile.
Nix
like
is a
that
super
at all.
athlete.
Yeah,
Nix is a really super athlete. Nuss, to me, the aggression in a pro style scheme does result in some really nice reads, some really nice throws. I think versus zone, he knows where to go with the football. He knows who to throw it, like kind of shade it away from. He has the Dak Prescott seam ball gene where, like, if you're playing cover 3, he's ripping that shit. He wants to throw the dig. He wants to make all the throws.
Yeah.
And he has over the course of his career, like, in terms of variety of routes and windows that he hits and climbing the pocket on top of it all. Like, I think as a field general, he has kind of the best resume in certain ways, maybe, but he also throws a ton of picks.
The answer for him is to be super aggressive and get rid of the ball all the time. That's how he doesn't take sacks.
Yes.
Right? Because there's people get to the not taking sacks in different ways, Right. His way, look, it's always good not to take sacks, but it's bad to throw an interception still, man. Even if the analytics guys, are more
sure.
I guess interceptions aren't as bad as you think. Sacks are worse than you think. That type of stuff.
That many interceptions has he?
My question with Nussmeier, I guess, is like this: how many small guys in the NFL right now who can't move are starting?
And this is the thing, like, I've become so anti-small guy at quarterback that me being higher on Nuss,
he's not Bryce. He's not Bryce size, but like, when I think about the smaller guys, even like, I guess like Mayfield is kind of the physical, like, but Mayfield is a lot better of a mover than Nussmeier even. He is.
Yeah, well, yeah, that part is true. That part is true. That part is definitely true. That part is 100%.
And I just said starter by rule, by law. You can't deny he's in the game at quarterback.
He is. Got a fat contract.
I don't want to
get taking his job in Tampa. No, I guess Nuss's pick rate isn't that bad, but he did lead the SEC in picks in 2024.
But his turnover-worthy play rate is the highest of anyone that we're going to talk about today.
You watch his tape and you're like, what are you doing letting that
Second is... I lied. He doesn't. He has the second highest rate. The first, you know him, you love him, is Fernando Mendoza. The second is Nuss. Third is Ty Simpson.
Bro, yeah, man. Ty Simpson turns the ball over too. Like, I for the life of me, I cannot understand. Like,
Ty Simpson has the third highest turnover worthy play rate. It was throughout a career at 2.8. Last season it was 3.0. And that's got
really what matters.
He's got one of the highest sack rates and pressure to sack rates in this class.
He's not that guy. But Nuss, I think maybe there's a world where he is a little dacky, but I'm not sure we're going to see that world. I think it's more of a or maybe a Dalton-y of like, look, this is
Dalton's
about as
not bad.
Dalton's probably a better because Dak is an MVP. Like front runner at times. So
facts.
Yeah,
I don't think that's Nuss.
And if Dalton's starting, you're not like dead in the wire necessarily.
Right. But like, okay, he can operate our offense. He tries things. It's not like we have to put him in and just throw screen all the time.
Or like Jacoby Brissett.
Mm-hmm. He's not that immobile.
Well, not Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett is
not Jacoby Brissett now. Jacoby Brissett like like 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
I know.
I think when they take Nuss in this draft and it's like in the third round, I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because Jacoby Brissett and some of these backups who like kind of bounce around and are always like decent in a spot starter role. Like I can see him being that. I really can see him being that. But I think that if he was your starter, guys that light will get hurt. I mean, this is shown time and time and time again that guys that like get nicked up
they've got
constantly.
this great new invention. It's called food. You can just eat more of it.
But yeah, I was watching his game against what was the game? It was against
from this season or 2024.
It was from, I think, this year versus South Carolina. And like he got plastered and they had to scrape him off the turf with a spatula several times. And it's like, man, I just feel like he
got benched this year, you know?
I just feel like even if his oblique heals, it's going to unheal. He's
also like 24. That's the other thing about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think backup that plays a long time is not a bad thing to spend a pick on, but Allar has like some real starting potential if you sit him, and I don't.
And that's why Allar's my QB2.
Yeah,
and Nuss is my QB3. You know, Allar has franchise potential. I don't know if I would say the same about Nuss, but I think he's worth having on your team. So
I think Beck is a little bit better in this archetype. I think Beck has a little bit more of a shot to stay healthy and can do a lot of the same things.
I want to give me your pitch for Beck. I wasn't super enthralled by him.
I think Beck, I think the Notre Dame game this year is a good one to watch if you want the vision on Beck. That's the one that got me most excited, I think. But I just think when you look at his body of work over the last several years, like it's been like pretty good. Like 2023, Georgia, Beck was about as good of a college field general as you're going to get without a ton of mobility, I think. Like very efficient year, throws over the middle of the field, like good little micro movements in the pocket. I think Beck is a little bit more stable in the pocket. I think he's better at kind of sliding around and stepping up instead of maybe breaking into a run.
Yeah. Well, Beck's also 6'5", 230.
Exactly. He's got more size. I think that you do see, especially in that Notre Dame game, him keeping his eyes downfield while he's getting touched, which I like, and being like, I'm going to throw to a spot. And man, there's a play where he's getting like twisted down and throws it to Tony on a corner route, and it doesn't get completed, but it's like out in front of Tony, away from the defender. Maybe there could have been a DPI on that play, and Tony kind of throws his hands up, and I was like, that's a pretty decent throw, and getting into that spot, like could have turned nothing into something there. He's not fast at all, but like he's got a little bit of like gallop to him, stepping up and like going through a gap you might not expect and setting somebody up. I think his deep ball constantly leads people kind of high and outside in a nice way. From what I saw,
I think you're gonna find that that's
not true.
Well, it's not that it's not true, right? Like he leads them high and outside, but how many receivers are going to go get that every time?
Yeah, sometimes it's high and outside to a fault where it's like uncatchable, even though he's like naked. But there's intentionality with it, which I didn't really see from Allar.
I guess the placement is consistent.
Mm-hmm. Pedro Martinez, the great pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. I watched a video just going through YouTube clips one night, and he's like, I always want to miss like inside. I just don't. If I'm going to miss, it's going to be there. I want intentionality to everything. And I feel like when I see Beck go deep, it is like it's going to be kind of that fade away towards the sideline type deal, which I liked. And yeah, I just thought when you look at the size and you look at the overall body of work and what he did with Miami this year in Georgia in 2023, it's like he's been one of the better college football quarterbacks over the last 3 years. And he gets to backside digs. He doesn't want to extend the play, but he's still kind of doing some things quickly to like where it's not just screen all the time. Like it is a dig. It is something, a hitch on the backside that he throws away from the corner's leverage, but it happens in less than 2.5 seconds. Like there's some tightness to it, and there's some toughness to his pocket. I think he might have a little bit more upside than people think, but he's also just. I watched the Texas A&M game this year. His misses in that game are again just crazy. It's like, why are you?
They're off
10 feet over somebody's head in the red zone, like trying to hit a back shoulder fade, and it's 10 feet over someone's head again, like out of bounds. And man, the Notre Dame game really got me excited, and then that one threw some cold water on it. 2023 was really good for him. I remember watching that Tennessee game and being like, wow, this guy's like, I haven't been this excited about like usually I don't get excited about pocket passers, strictly pocket passers, but like this guy's really good at it. And then 2024, it all kind of falls apart. And then he kind of comes back this year and gets him to the national championship game. So I just think like he might have a little bit more upside than people think. Like he's not super toolsy, but I think there's some little things he does as a field general that are impressive. And he's not afraid to run it either. He's not again, he's not fast. He's not elusive, but I saw him scramble plenty, and like it's always a good move.
You know, maybe my problem with Beck is a perception thing, because you're describing it as, well, he was really good in 2023, and then 2024 was a fall off, and then he bounced back. I'm like, well, what happened to 2023, man? I'm looking at it from where'd that all go, because he was quite good in 2023. I just feel like we haven't seen that as much. So
no, we definitely haven't, but even 2024, it isn't in like the dredges of this quarterback class of like a, Kyron Drones type efficiency. Jake Retzloff at BYU type efficiency.
Well, neither of those guys are in my top 5. So.
Or even Taylon Green 2023 type efficiency.
Taylon Green's funny because it's like he's the real tools guy.
He's the real tools guy, yeah. But yeah, Beck, I don't know where you guys have any thought on him.
I don't know, like 5.
5. Yeah, I've got him at 3. I'm running the Beck agenda. Someone has to do it, right?
Someone does.
You have.
I saw someone tweet that. I saw someone getting flamed on Twitter because they were saying that Beck is QB1 in this class.
I think he's.
Don't even begin to half defend the thought of that.
Beck QB1. I don't hate the take. I actually don't. I think when people talk about like, oh, I just want the 6'5" pocket passer, like that's not Mendoza, that's Beck. Mendoza's like elusive and like
sure,
bigger armed and more slippery. Like Beck is the like boring pocket passer guy. Maybe it'll pay off. I don't know. I'm not cooking the Carson Beck QB1. I don't agree, but I'm not. I'll let the rest of the world. I will let the rest of the world.
Well, okay. Are you not cooking it because you agree with it so much, or are you not cooking it because you're a kind guy who doesn't do that to strangers who aren't here to defend themselves? I'm saying it's more the latter.
I see the vision on it. I see the vision. That's what I'm saying. I see the vision on Beck QB1. I think he's kind of in that first tier of quarterbacks, like where I could see back of the first round, like you take Carson Beck.
Dude, no way. I'm not there with them.
The Steelers take Carson Beck.
I wouldn't hate it.
That would be classic.
I would not hate that. I would not hate that for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steelers fans were commenting on our mock draft. They're like, thank you guys for not taking a quarterback.
We're giving them Carson Beck next time. Awesome.
Mock draft 3.0. You're getting Carson Beck, and you're gonna.
If he's there, I'll take Omar Cooper. I'll take Boston. But if they are like, we need something at quarterback, and they take Carson Beck, I'd be like, yeah, I'll hear him out. So yeah, sign me up, man.
All right.
You're shaking your head, but what do you hate about him so much? Why are you such a Beck hater?
I think he's a huge pocket passer. He's been in college a long time. I don't think he's improved. I don't think the accuracy is that great at all. I think giving him grace for how he misses is in the first round. I don't think he's crazy to have in the top 5 at all, or like at 3. I'm like, yeah, I don't agree.
All right,
whatever.
Shuck number 40. Take him there. I don't know.
That's a big difference. 21 to 40 is a huge difference. And I don't even think he's got the positive signifiers that Shuck had. I think Shuck's a better prospect than.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'd rather have him in the second round. I just if someone took Carson Beck in the first round, if the Steelers took him at 21, they would get roundly criticized, and I would be to say like, yeah.
And you would be the dissenting voice because of how.
I'd say, hold on a minute.
So Matt, you've got Mendoza, Allar,
and I've got Nuss in there. I'll be real, I didn't come with like a set top 5. Sure. I knew my top 3 guys, and I was like, Nuss, I'm kind of mid on. Beck I'm kind of mid on.
You'll put Nuss in
Nick. I think the accuracy was really, really bad last year. I loved him, but it was like, God, some of the misses in the Gamecocks game were insane.
Yeah.
Like, you think the Allar misses were bad. His misses were.
Klubnik
really,
has some rough misses, but you know what he does have? He's got some nice pocket awareness. And that you cannot say for a lot of the quarterbacks in this class. And that's the one thing that makes me, I have him at 4 just off of like that alone, because I'm like, I can work with that, right? We can deal with the accuracy, because I think a lot of it is mechanical. I think a lot of it is like his footwork can get away from him. And I'm like, we can fix that. If he's got the pocket presence, it feels like he's got some sense of the game. He's a physical, tough guy. He's I think a really good athlete. So I think there is some stuff to work with there with Klubnik, where you might not have that with a lot of the other guys here. So I have Klubnik at 4. But
yeah, at 4, I don't think anybody necessarily stands out.
This is beyond like the quarterback ranking in this class. It just goes beyond like me caring pretty quickly. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because like, what's the gap between? Okay, let me put it this way: the gap between like your wide receiver 6 and your wide receiver 12, like that, like really means something. Like your wide receiver 6 is probably going to be like a player on some level or another, right? Whereas like the 6th best quarterback in a class is going to like could be out of the league in like 2 years, you know, and like literally never take a snap. So I've
but for the sake of the list,
for the sake of the list, I'm being fickle about it. I'm just saying, like, especially in a weak class like this, there's a couple of guys that I think are worth interesting shots, and overall, I think it's then a lot of guys that are like, this guy could be a backup. Which, hey, you know, backups get paid good money, money now.
Best job in the world, backup quarterback in the NFL. So.
Yeah, I'll put next on my list. I'll put Taylor Green just because.
You'll put Green at 4.
Why the hell not?
And also a little bit of that Cole Payton guy. He's pretty athletic, but I don't know if he has the biggest arm. He drops like everything in the bucket, which is kind of cool. But it's also really tough. He's like a 1-year starter at North Dakota State, which I think will be. It hasn't been a positive signifier in the past, we'll say.
Sure.
So he's got a lot to overcome, I guess.
Green, I definitely want in Madden because he has 99 throw power and like 95 speed. Like he's really fast and explosive.
They don't let you upgrade those things, but you can upgrade the accuracy easily.
Him at the Senior Bowl was hilarious. Like they're running posts and he's like throwing it into like guys the other side of the field where the other drills are happening. He's like disrupting them because he's throwing it there.
Disrupting other drills.
And those are completed passes. And it's like, I'm biting my fists, and then it's like outbreaker, and it's not even close. I feel like his pocket awareness is so inconsistent. Like there are moments where it's like, oh, he uses all that height and he steps up and it looks nice. And then there are others where it's like he's almost like waiting for a flash of color so the play can actually start. It's like he's well protected and he's just holding it, and then like someone busts through the line and then he takes off. It's like you don't gotta wait until that happens. And yeah, he threw some awful picks, but I don't know. Sometimes athleticism gives you a high floor, man. Look at Felipe Franks at Arkansas. He's still around. He's a special teamer, but he's still around. He's making more of an impact than Zach Wilson is at this point. Trey Lance.
Come on.
Hop in that special teams line like that one guy, Strevler or whatever.
Give the take that I'd still take Anthony Richardson at 4-3 or whatever, because with an athlete like that, his floor of at least contributing on special teams.
Felipe Franks, it's not even a theory. Felipe Franks proves this to be true.
And
I'm never getting
special teams is at least 90% of the game.
I'm never getting any special teams value over Ty
Gravity is
Simpson.
a theory. Felipe Frank's special teams impact is just a fact.
That's true.
Yeah, like
That's a factually true statement. It's a theory of relativity. We can all see with our eyes and ears. Runner-up Pro Bowl vote, Felipe Franks. So that's why I'll always value athleticism, because like if you got weight and can run fast, you can at least be a gunner. And so I'm drafting Taylor Green with that in the back of my mind.
All right. So then who's your 5?
My 5?
Humor me and pick Nuss or Klubnik, man.
Oh. Did I have Simpson at 3?
You had Mendoza, Allar, Beck.
Yeah.
So is Simpson your 4 and Green your 5?
Yeah, I'll put Simpson at 4 and I'll put Green at 5.
I hate you.
Maybe I'll flip those two, though, because Simpson, like I said, Simpson has no chance of ever being a gunner.
I mean, I'll say it won't matter for the consensus list if that's what you're worried.
We need like an undersized gunner who made it work to be the Drew Brees of that field.
Drew Brees of gunners.
People hate the aesthetic of the athletic gunner. They think smarts.
I'm sick of people drafting these gunners just off tools, bro.
They're a position just like anybody else. They need movement skills just like anyone else. It's
Me arguing
the same
for
thing.
positional value, for getting rid of positional value, and it's just gunners.
You had a psycho tweet about all the defensive positions being equally valuable.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
That's not true though. You think the best corner is as valuable as Myles Garrett? You think Hamilton's as valuable?
I mean,
yeah,
this
we
is
already
true.
know it.
We already
this
know
has already
this
been
is true.
established.
So it's like Surtain, Stingley,
As valuable as Myles Garrett?
maybe. I mean, it's just like if they're as good as Myles Garrett, they're as valuable as him in my eyes.
Why do you feel like positional value doesn't exist?
It's not that it doesn't exist. I think particularly on defense, because everyone says, well, there's so much that's up to, like, you have 10 other guys you have to worry about. And it's like, well, that's true for every position on defense.
I mean,
Don't you think that would be-
PFF did a study and they said safety was above edge in positional value.
That doesn't mean that it's. Yeah, if I ask a 4-year-old what 2 + 2 is and they say 5, I'm not going to turn around and be like, well, who really is to say?
PFF isn't a 2-year-old though.
I'm not saying that they are, but I am saying that just because you get a wrong answer from somebody, the odds, I'll say this, the odds that people with completely different roles happen to be exactly as important as each other is unbelievably low. What are the chances of that?
100%. Everybody's
like nothing.
Everybody has a part to play. Look at Cammy's.
It doesn't work that way on offense.
No, I do think on offense positional value is true because there's more control.
I'm on board with the idea that like we don't have to weight it quite as heavily.
Sure.
When it comes to the draft with these like sort of blue chippy prospects, I'm there. But the idea that it just completely doesn't exist.
Chairman Blaiden knows that defense is fighting a protracted war and everybody has an equal part to play.
I'm saying,
I agree
like,
with that.
There is no position on defense where someone could take a play off and it not end in a disaster. But on offense,
doesn't make them as valuable as each other.
You could have an entire half of the team take a playoff.
Cook.
No way.
You could.
It happened to Tech. Look at Sark. Look at Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell, he took half the plays off. They just threw it to Worthy. He was walking around. You can't have your corner doing that. You'll get torched.
That doesn't make all the positions equally as valuable.
It's not that
there's no consensus though. Like that's the thing.
It doesn't matter. There's no consensus on which quarterback is the best. That doesn't mean that they're all the same.
No.
Right.
But
this is just I'm sorry. Edge rusher is definitely the most valuable defensive position, or pass rusher to throw in Aaron Donald types or whatever, Chris Jones type. Definitely. I
mean, if you ask coaches or players, they would agree more with Blaiden than with you. I think.
I mean, I asked Julian Love, and he was like, I kind of think DBs.
Asking a safety might be true. It'd be interesting to ask, like, Garrett,
I might have asked. There might have been a conflict of interest with that.
So basically, what's happening in every front office is the coaches are probably pounding the table for the top guys at low positional value positions.
I'm not.
It's like no.
Sure. Okay.
Because like all the coaches and players agree with you guys, right? So what's happening is that the coaches are saying, hey, we can get this linebacker for so and so amount of money. And then all the like GMs are just, so they say, no, we're not doing that. And the coaches have no influence, I guess.
Dable and Shane dynamic. I mean, that was Joe Shane's whole theory is like, we got to get rid of these safeties. We got to get rid of this defensive tackle for an edge. We don't want the running back.
But that is completely different.
And it was all bad.
All those the same amount. That is different. That's not the same.
But if you're a terrible corner, they'll torch you.
I'm not. Again, that's not really an argument for all the positions are equally valuable.
I'm just
if I have a terrible on defense,
only on defense.
If your free safety makes one mistake, you're cooked. You're cooked. I think they do all have.
No way.
I think it's very close. I think it's very close. I think what the coaches want is trenches. I think all the coaches would say like, well, you need to get your trenches first and then your skill position later. That's what they would all say.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, a lot. I think Matt, you brought it up as like a corner might be a finishing piece to a defense.
Okay. If the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons for Stingley, you guys think the Cowboys defense would have stayed as good?
I mean, Micah was a great addition to the Packers. Their defense sucked because of Keyshawn Nixon, bro. Like they were dead on arrival because it was just Micah Parsons, and they got worse. They got worse after getting Micah Parsons. They were a better unit in 2024. In 2025, things went down because they had so many other weaknesses. Like he didn't save the whole deal. And I think with Myles Garrett, like when the corners played bad, their defense was not good.
Yeah.
And when the corners played good, the defense was good. Like he stayed the same throughout. I think
the addition of an off-ball linebacker added a lot to that defense. I get what you're saying with like the edge rusher stuff. I do, but I just don't think that I don't think that edge rusher is just like by far and away definitely the most valuable position on defense.
I think defensive tackle might be more valuable. If you look at like all the best defensive tackle duos, they were all in the NFC Championship game. But you could also then say that with tight end on offense, where it's like, oh, look at Kelsey and Kittle and Gronk, like all those.
Sure,
those are some of the winningest players of the era. So are they the most valuable because they win everything? I don't know. I think outside of quarterback, there's a lot of gray area in terms of positional value. A lot of gray area. I'm more with Blaiden.
I can agree with there being gray area. Like, look at guards. I think the thinking has changed on that.
That they're more or less.
That they're now becoming more positionally valuable, I think, is what a lot of the thinking is starting to shift to. I don't know. That's just,
I think people are trying to. I think all these economists get these GM roles, and they're missing the forest to the trees of everybody has a part to play. Like I genuinely think that's true.
I don't disagree that everybody has a part to play. That's a different argument, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that every part matters equally.
I mean, the Browns are one of the worst teams in football.
Yeah.
Over the course of Myles Garrett's career.
Yeah.
Like, he's not saving them. He's not carrying them.
The Browns have a good defense.
Argument.
The Browns have a good defense.
I'm sorry. All of these are just like complete, like they make no case for why an off-ball.
Well, why is edge more valuable?
Because they quickly affect every play. Because the pressure that they can do. If a corner locks up a number one, okay. So you guys will sit here and say, well, a receiver could just take a play off and it'll be okay. Okay, so if a cornerback locks up a receiver, it could be okay. But I bet you wouldn't say an offensive lineman can take off a play, right? So an edge rusher can just blow up a play if they have a great rep.
That's the difference. That's kind of a screen. If you have a guy just like intentionally whiff to
I think it's not taking a play off though, because they're trying to get to the second.
It's a different thing. It's a different thing. But like,
you're protecting the running back instead of the quarterback.
I want an answer to this. A corner cannot blow up a play like that as consistently as an edge rusher can? Undoubtedly. Would you say an offensive lineman on a passing rep can take a play off?
On just a straight drop back passing rep?
No one can take a play off.
That is an edge rusher.
No one, maybe no one could.
Except for a receiver when it's an RPO.
Very okay. So a receiver, if a receiver takes the point you guys were getting at was not that like it's okay for guys to take a play off.
Yeah.
But like if a receiver like were to lose horribly, it doesn't necessarily screw up the whole play because you have other options.
Right.
That same logic, where you wouldn't say that about an offensive lineman, that same logic applies the reverse way. It has to.
Well, I just think like if you're playing with 10 men on defense, you're fucked no matter what. Like it doesn't matter who that person is, you're fucked. It could be the edge.
All equally valuable. No
but
one being able to take a play off doesn't
I think just because the fact that the edge can impact the play in a second necessarily makes them because you can throw two people at Myles Garrett. You can't throw two people at Derek Stingley. Like he's just locking up your number one and there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, you could do like motion. You could try and get him a different match.
You can try something. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you don't have to. But what if he's man and he follows him? Like you motion him and there he goes. All right. Well, there he goes. Or what if he's on your number two and they bracket your number one? I mean, when the Patriots were playing the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, we're all like, man, Christian Gonzalez needs to have a big day, and he did, and he kept it in him. He kept them in it.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
He kept it.
Did not keep them in it.
Yes, he did.
You can't say that the Browns have been bad while they've had Myles Garrett and be like, look, Christian Gonzalez kept the Patriots.
Myles Garrett kept the Browns in a lot of games, I feel like.
Sure, of course he did. He's an unbelievable player, but like
this is just a completely
with a good corner, you can blitz.
This is such an overcorrect. You can blitz a corner. Give me
you don't. No, you can't blitz a corner. If you have great corners, you can play cover one. You can blitz. Nobody can affect the play in 1 second.
Sure.
Right? But it only works if you have guys who can win one-on-one on the outside. But you can still generate that pass rush by playing certain coverages that take advantage of the one-on-one wins on the outside. So corners can make you get to the quarterback quickly with.
But the secondary is so much more weak link versus.
That's not what PFF said.
The defensive line.
PFF.
But you disagree with it. Like you don't get to just say like these. It doesn't mean that there's no answer. That is such an insane.
What is the answer?
It is an insane position to hold. That if we don't have a consensus, therefore they're all equal.
Okay, how about an analytics company that said coverage grade translates more to wins than pass rush grade? That's what they said. Now, I don't think that means corner is the most valuable position. I agree with Blaiden. Where like it's kind of equal. Like I think trying to stack them all up from 1 to 11 is like a fool's errand. So I don't agree with their whole what they've got going on, but I'm just saying when an analytics company did a big study on this, it's not that they said the opposite of what you just said, which is it matters more, it translates more to winning what the pass rush numbers are.
It doesn't matter.
I do think the problem with trying to quantify this and like I think part of my reasoning is going to end up being the reason we have linebackers rated so lowly in positional value for a lot of people is because for a while there just weren't any good linebackers, right? And there were a lot of good edge rushers all of a sudden. And I feel like people still value corner to a decent degree, but like there wasn't like an Ed Reed for a while. And now we have Kyle Hamilton and Brian Branch, and people are like, oh my God, these guys are awesome. Right. And I think things just kind of will correct as we have more good players at those positions. But I think like a lack of good inside linebackers and a lack of like a large number of disruptive interior defensive linemen has pushed people's perception lower on their value.
Yeah. And I think running back too, like there was a time when, Gurley had arthritis or whatever it was in his knee, and Le'Veon Bell retired for a year in the middle of his career and then went to the Jets of all places. And then Zeke fell off in extremely quickly. And like, those are kind of the times when people are doing the positional value study, and it's like, man, these running backs. But now it's like Bijan Robinson and Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley shows up and wins a Super Bowl, and like
K9 on offense is the theory that literally just quarterbacks are more valuable than everybody else, and then everyone else is like tier 2, and then I guess like special teams guys are tier 3.
I don't hate that theory.
I haven't thought about it so much with offense, but I could get behind it.
I think this is just a crazy opinion.
I think maybe it is. I don't know. Like,
I mean, like, man, those Cowboys corners, they were getting first team All-Pro because Micah was just a problem in that way.
Nixon didn't get first team All-Pro.
He doesn't make every corner he's ever played with first team All-Pro. But I've never, ever, ever heard of a corner so good that his guy has 17 sacks. It didn't work like that. Even though coverage sacks are a thing, it didn't work like that.
I don't know. I think
there was a corner in the 70s and 80s that was so good that they made a rule to stop them.
I mean, the Denver Broncos led the league in sacks this year. Who's their best defensive player? It's Patrick Surtain, because he can.
Come on,
they do have a lot of good defensive players.
They have a lot of good defensive players, but they blitz a ton. Vance Joseph blitzes and they play man, and they have a guy who can take away your number one, and they led the league in sacks. So maybe not one guy got 17 sacks because of Patrick Surtain, but like obviously Surtain affects the sack numbers. Come on. Surtain affects the sack numbers.
Do you seriously think that Patrick Surtain affects the sack numbers the same way that like Micah forces bad throws? I think that's just psychotic.
Like the Browns blitz a lot, and like they get a lot of sacks because they're able to force one-on-ones with Garrett.
I mean,
like,
the Cowboys example, like Bland and Diggs are like premier jump the route. Like their whole style is that. So I think they're uniquely kind of situated to like have a season like that. But I think everything. I think offense affects defense. Like earlier, I was talking about how Jaden was in a worse situation than Mendoza.
You have to start saying until you start saying that about Joe Burrow. I don't care.
That Burrow has to carry the defense, or like
you have to. I mean, this is like. There have been quarterbacks with
Burrow carries the defense, and Chase carries the defense.
I'm hearing this.
Chase carries the defense too. T. Higgins carries the defense.
In terms of what though? In terms of it affecting their offensive statistical outcome in such a way, or in terms of like the team wins? I agree with team wins.
In terms of they put up a certain amount of points per drive, and they get teams in passing situations and make them more predictable, and that helps out the defense. Like it makes their play calling better.
How much does Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins hurt the defense by having an offense that is primarily through the air, and so maybe they're scoring too quickly on like the play clock or on the game clock?
I think
both you guys should tweet out that you think all defensive positions are perfectly equal.
I did.
Yeah, Blaiden's like that, man. Blaiden
I have
made a
zero
TikTok
fear,
about it.
man. I am not afraid of the smoke at all. But like, I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy to be like all defensive players are equal in value.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think
We'll just agree to disagree.
saying that defense is like that weak link overall is nuts to me.
It is. That the Giants had their whole fucking season blown up because of Tyler Nubin and Alexander, the 3 technique. Like, the 3 technique was bad, and they were able to build double teams on the whole rest of the front 4, and they were cooked. And then after I said that, Eric Eager, formerly of PFF, he's like, "You're so right about this," and he sent me another PFF link, and it was why defense is the ultimate weak link like unit. Like you got to judge a defense more by their weak link wherever it is than their strong link. Like literally, I had that exact interaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just gonna agree to disagree on this, and that's okay.
This is the end of Stay
with that. No, I'm perfectly fine to agree.
This is. I mean, no, it's just such a psychotic opinion. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We spent the entire fucking offseason talking about how Micah is one of the most 10 impactful guys. You wouldn't actually trade Micah for an equivalent safety. You don't actually think that's the same. There is no way. I don't think you really truly believe that. Bullshit.
Theo, if someone offered you, Kyle, if the Ravens called.
I mean, I think Micah's like the best player in the league overall right now. So like, or he was, it was him and Garrett, I think, as the best 2 defenders in the league. And then, yeah, probably Hamilton.
You have to understand that some of the math around like Garrett getting all this money and like, I mean, when they talk about trades, they're like, it starts at 3 first-round picks. You have to understand part of that is you know, the value of the position. Same with Micah. Got traded for 2 first-round draft picks and the guy, and you're like, oh my God, that's so cheap, even though you have to pay him as high as any other defensive player. Now, logically, if you believe that it was actually all weak link, and yeah, you know, Micah is great, but a star anywhere is a star anywhere. Actually, the premier strategy would never to get an edge rusher that good, because you just have to pay them so much, you lose so much value. That would be the strategy. But up until this very moment, neither of you guys have believed that in the slightest. Now, your opinions can change. I'm not saying that, but I really, really think like the other things that you would have to build off of that would be the other opinions you'd have to have for this to all connect are like pretty crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought about that aspect of it, and maybe I'll give it some consideration.
I would think about thinking about it.
I mean, I've told you that I think it's nice that running back and safety, if you were to take Downs and you were to take Love, you would get their second contract at a fraction of the cost of what you'd have to pay JSN and what you'd have to pay Micah and what you'd have to pay these guys. I think that's a big advantage, that there is such a discrepancy. That's been my take about Downs. So like, yeah, I agree, like to some extent, that like, man, these contracts are getting crazy. These contracts are getting absolutely nuts, and it's hard to win with them. I do believe that. And I think with Parsons, I'm getting nervous about it. I was happy it happened. I thought he would turn the defense into a top 3 unit. I thought they would.
Why?
Why did I think that? Because he's the best.
Didn't you know
rusher
their
on the planet.
corners?
I thought Sauce was the same thing.
It's the ultimate weak link sport, bro.
I thought Sauce was going to do the same thing for the Colts, and he got hurt. I was like, yeah, do it. Trade him.
You think the Micah trade was a bad idea? Logically, I don't know how you could possibly believe anything else.
I don't think it was a bad idea because
you got the most expensive star around. Whereas, shit, bro, they could have picked up a Kenneth Walker for whatever. They could have picked up a Devin. You would rather have Devin Lloyd for $14 million a year, and you get to keep your 2 firsts. I don't even think that's debatable. Sure, Micah's a better player overall, but like, is the gap that much? Nah, I couldn't say it would be.
I mean, if Micah is making all this money and he's torn his ACL, I'm nervous about that. I'm legitimately nervous that Love and Micah make a huge percentage of our cap.
Even if he hadn't torn his ACL, though, let's pretend that didn't happen because we're just talking about the move itself, and the torn ACL isn't out.
I still think Micah would have been worth it because I think he's the best defensive player. Like I think trading 2 for the best defensive player in the sport is fine. It's fine. Again, I don't think edge rusher is not valuable. I just want the best defensive player in the sport. But I do think these contracts are getting crazy, and I think it's happened with quarterbacks, right? Where you want the Darnold level contract. He just won this. It wasn't Josh Allen who came and ripped through the whole AFC and won the Super Bowl. It's a well-balanced team with Witherspoon as a top 5 pick and K9 carrying the load on offense. And yeah, it's without a weak link really in anywhere on the defense. Yeah, I think that's a better way to do it than we got 2 high-end stars and that's it. I think the Packers are in a rough spot going forward not because of Micah and Love as players, but it's man, they're really top heavy. And
so you wouldn't do the Micah trade, so you wouldn't be as top heavy, so you could have a more rounded defense. That's my question.
Well, we didn't draft I think 2 first-round picks.
You wouldn't. We wouldn't draft them well anyway. No, that's a cop out. You think it was a bad trade?
I don't think it was a bad trade. I would do it again, but I just think
then it makes you too top heavy, and the same with Love. If it were up to you, you wouldn't be.
I mean, clearly the Packers are a little top heavy. That is a problem, and
the reason why
he didn't solve all of our problems like I thought he would.
The reason why the Packers are so top heavy, in your opinion, is that they're paying these guys because they think they're so much more of a valuable position, right? That's obviously part of it, and they're wrong. They aren't more valuable. All the positions are the same. So if it were up to you, you would not do those trades. You would not make moves like that.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe the Love thing, we can have a discussion about the quarterbacks. That's the quarterbacks are a whole nother world. Right?
I mean, the Packers, but to be fair to the Packers, I mean, they did have one of a top 10 defense by every metric in 2024. And so you may have been thinking we do have a pretty complete roster. And we'll add Gary is good and Wyatt's good. And we'll add Micah to that. And it'll be a deep defense with high-end star power, and it'll be top 3. And that just didn't end up materializing. There were injuries, there were more weak links than maybe you thought. Nate Hobbs didn't pan out as a free agent signing. So there just ended up being more weak links than you thought. But it's 100% true that those weak links ended up winning out over how good Michael was. That's just the truth. Now we're in a situation where 2 players are making all this money, and it's going to be hard to build a roster as good as what the Seahawks have. I'm not saying, I guess I'm not saying I would have not done the Micah trade, because I do think it was a steal. And I think that
you can't think that. It doesn't make any sense.
I think you're saying, I think it was a steal compared to the other moves that happened. Max Crosby gets moved for 2 first-round picks. Man, you look back at the Micah trade, it is a steal in that way, compared to the going rate and the reality that we're living in. But it's paying him $45 million is not a steal by any means. I guess it's a steep price. But
I just don't think this opinion really lines up. I don't think that this is something that you guys have thought through to the fullest. I'm just being honest.
Maybe not.
If you think they're all equal, then obviously the strategy would be get the guys who are super cheap and avoid the edge rushers.
But you need good players eventually.
Yeah. You need good players, but you don't want to be paying the very top end guys there because they're so much more expensive. But luckily for us, what are the odds? The best defensive players just straight up, it's not even about positional value. Best defensive players straight up are our 2 favorite teams' top edge rushers, actually.
Well, the best defensive player, the two best defensive players in the league are Myles Garrett and Kyle Hamilton. Those are the 2 best defensive players in the sport, are Myles Garrett and Kyle Hamilton.
Right. I mean, why is Micah so much better than Kyle Hamilton?
He isn't.
Right. See, you would usually say that Micah is a more impactful player, but we're not saying that, right?
I mean, Hamilton. I guess Hamilton in 2023. That's probably the best. That might be the best defense of the
good.
That might be the best defense of the 2020s. Was the one that Hamilton was on, not the one that Micah was on. Hamilton led a defense just as good as Garrett's at his peak. So maybe.
And are there any other factors that play into any of that? No. What we have to assume, they're about the same.
That was scary.
If edge rushers are more valuable, how could a safety be on a better defense?
I mean, what edge rusher did the Ravens have when they were
yourself? First off, both Micah and Garrett have led statistically wildly impressive defenses.
Of course they have, because they're the best defensive players.
That eventually fail. Well, here's what's interesting. And eventually those defenses fail in the playoffs because they have other issues and nobody behind them, which is a question.
Where's Micah been in the playoffs? Where's Garrett been in the playoffs?
Right. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
I'm saying that, like, yeah, so both of those guys led these great statistical defenses in the regular season at one point or another. How they did this with so many weak links behind them like Micah had, we'll never know how Micah even possibly pulled that off. But eventually it caught up to them. Whereas with the Ravens, and you've said this a lot, they were the most complete defense ever with Kyle Hamilton. And you made a point that they don't have any edge rushers, and you always say that never caught up with them either. You're always like, the Ravens pass rush has never been a big issue in the playoffs. It never becomes a problem. The Ravens
becomes a problem.
You're asking me who their edge rushers are. Yeah, they've had bad edge rushers and they've cost them.
And bad corners have cost the Browns the same exact way.
You can have bad corners cost somebody, and it doesn't mean that they're as valuable as an edge. Obviously.
But you've presented no evidence that edge is better. You just say, like, oh, well, they impact the play faster. That's your logic.
Yes.
But what argument is that?
You have clearly like believed for so long that edges are more valuable, and you clearly hold no other opinion that would work in tandem with this. You obviously let's just cut the bullshit. Obviously, the Micah trade would be bad if you thought that edge rushers didn't have extra positional value. You would think that basically every top edge rusher position, like, contract is horrible. You would think that they're all overpays, and that the preferred strategy is to get all pro level guys for literally half as expensive at less valuable positions.
They are overpays.
Okay, but it would be such an extreme. It should basically be the main point of conversation with team building all the time. Clearly, you guys do not weight it that heavily, but that is so obviously what you would have to believe. It would be. Let
me pick Josh. Let me pick Caleb down, number one in a mock, and I'm like that. Give me the first overall pick, and I'll turn down Mendoza. I'll take someone I know is good. I would.
Look, man, I think I'm really saying more with the contract stuff, right?
Sure. I've said before, I think Kyle Hamilton deserves just as much money as Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Blaiden's been about that. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy that Jalen Phillips gets paid as much as Kyle.
Yeah,
more than Kyle by a lot. Jalen Phillips makes $30 million a year.
In the same stratosphere.
Jalen Phillips makes $30 million a year. Fred Warner makes 21. That's not right. That's not right. Like, that's a steal for the 49ers. Yep. He is doing more for that defense. He is doing more for that team. He is just because Jalen Phillips can win and get pressure quickly, he is not doing more than Fred Warner. Fred Warner has been a part of some of the top defenses of, like, all time. In probably 2022 with the 49ers. 2019 was a great year. Like, Jalen Phillips has not been a part of that. And he's getting paid more. That doesn't make sense. Micah, at least, is the best player in the sport. So, or one of them, one of the top 5 players in the sport. So if he gets paid like a top 5 player in the sport, okay, that's not that egregious of an overpay. But look at the edges as a whole compared to the linebackers as a whole. There's a clear inefficiency there, and GMs are, I think, could do a better job of gaming it. 100%.
Yeah, the Phillips contract was inefficient. That's because they're that desperate for an edge rusher. Because the Panthers defense had other good pieces, and it was still mostly terrible.
Right, but why is he getting paid $9 million more than Fred Warner?
Well, I can agree that maybe Fred Warner's a little underpaid and that Phillips was an overpay, but you're looking at a contract that was an overpay specifically because of how desperate the Panthers were for something that was crushing their defense, which was that they had no edge threat whatsoever.
Sure.
Right? So like what ended up happening towards the end of the season for Carolina?
They suck because they had terrible edge rushers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, shit, they were going up against a team that had a serious defensive line and struggled with the back seven, right? And that ended up costing. But how much better was a Rams defense than Carolina's? Way better.
Way better, of course.
Yeah.
Way better. Yeah.
But having Mike Jackson gave him a chance to win both of those games. Having J.C. Horn gave him a chance to win both of those games. They took him to the wire because he had good corners.
I mean, what are we talking about? Do you think the Panthers defense wasn't nearly as good as the Rams? And what you're basically turning this into every time is you're just well, so you're saying J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson make no impact? No. So you're saying that they're not good players and you're saying that having bad cornerbacks wouldn't matter?
And why did the Rams lose? Why did the Rams get beat by the?
What?
Why did they lose?
I literally just fucking said that, dude.
They lost because of the corners.
They matter. The cornerbacks matter, but again, this argument is.
But you're saying
the Rams' defense was better, so much better than the Panthers
because they're more talented from top to bottom.
They got more good players. I'm fine to agree to disagree on this.
I'm not.
Okay.
It's not. It's. I mean, this. You guys. You say I don't present an argument. You don't present an argument.
We've given so many examples.
No. You don't give me examples of every position being equally valuable. You say that cornerbacks matter. You say that safeties matter. You say that linebackers matter.
I'm saying it's a weak link position.
It can be, and that doesn't make everybody as valuable. The NBA has become more weak. The NBA has become more weak link. Therefore, every guy is as valuable. No. Still, your star is so important.
Your star is so important. Well, what about point guard, center, power forward, small forward? Of course, the better players are more important. Duh. But what about point about point guard versus power forward? Are we trying to game that? What in the NBA? No one's like, oh well, we got to take Boozer.
It's a weak link. It's a weak link sport. That doesn't mean that every guy is as important. A star can still overcome your. It doesn't mean that there's no level of your stars overcoming weak links.
But what NBA position is the least valuable? Are they all the same?
I'm not talking about positional. It's not a positional. It's not.
But does it exist? Do you think it exists in the NBA?
No.
What?
It's more positionless. Well, actually, yes, bigger guys are more valuable.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Well, the defense is what. But I don't know. You couldn't have a point guard take off plays and still play defense. So actually, your point guard is as valuable defensively as Victor Wembanyama. That's my opinion. Oh, and what you're saying, a defensive, you think Chris Paul didn't matter on defense? Really? Oh, and then I can point out teams where their point guard the Knicks don't have an issue with Jalen Brunson being bad on defense? That's interesting. It's weak link. It's weak link.
Right. But NBA teams and NFL defenses are kind of similar.
No. I mean, it's weak link, man.
Of course it is.
If the Knicks can be cost by Jalen Brunson's bad defense, that means that every position defensively is equally as valuable.
I mean, that's why the Luka trade happened.
If any position can cost you, and the Luka trade was awesome. If any position can cost you, then they're all equally as valuable.
But that's why
true. Not true. If any position can cost you, they're all equally as valuable. That is your logic, and that's obviously wrong.
I don't know if that's the only point.
That's the weak link point.
Yeah, sure.
They're all equally as valuable because it's about weak link, and you can't be terrible anywhere. that doesn't make them all equally as valuable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You don't want to be terrible everywhere. I guess my point is just that
Definitely not everywhere.
You don't want to be that everywhere. No, my point is mostly that the best players are the most valuable players, right? In that it is more like basketball, that your stars matter and your stars can cover up your weak links to some extent. But that I would rather just have good players than anything else. That is my main point of all of this, is that I would rather have Kyle Hamilton.
Your main point is that all the positions are equally as valuable.
Yeah,
you guys cannot, on defense, you cannot move off of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the whole thing we're arguing.
But that's why the argument is that I would just rather have a good player, right? Like, I'm not going to take an edge rusher who I think is worse than a safety. Like, if I were to give like Madden grades to someone, you said you could have a 99 or a 95 overall safety or an 88 overall edge rusher, give me the safety every time.
And with basketball, like, are the bigs the most valuable, or are there just a lot of good bigs right now? Like, bigs are the most valuable when Jokic and Wemby and
defensively,
they're
the most valuable.
Well, just on the team generally. Because Curry is the highest paid player, and Curry is the highest paid player, and Durant's up there.
It's not a one-to-one comparison when you get into offense. And I wasn't talking about position. I was making a point about how it's weak link, but that doesn't mean everybody's as equal. But it wasn't about the positions.
Right. Yes.
All right.
The roles on an NBA team are not as defined by the positions as they are in the NFL. That's why it just doesn't really make sense as a comparison.
Sure.
But just because something is weak link, like defense in the NBA definitely is. Although, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I think offense as much as anything, because, like how defenses can play, it's complicated or whatever. But I don't think like a weak link being able to cost you means that everybody is equally as valuable. And I honestly don't even see how you could argue that it does.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. Like,
especially when we work to such an extreme, like, well, if a guy took a play off completely, well, that's like not what happened.
I think I was trying to just get to an extreme of like what the worst possible example of having like when the Browns had, like, in 2024, when the Browns were dealing with, Newsome and I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now, Emerson, but people love Emerson. But like Newsome and Emerson were costing the Browns on defense, and it's a big reason why their defense took a big step back, right? And it's like, yeah, even though they still had Garrett, and Garrett was still awesome, and Garrett, I think, still could have won Defensive Player of the Year that season, and they still have Denzel Ward, like, but another big problem with the Browns defense that year was like they didn't have JOK, right? Their like interior blitzing linebacker piece was gone.
They didn't have anything other than Garrett.
Yeah, they lost a lot of their interior defensive linemen. Like, yeah, you can't build out a defense with just one guy. And I think that's kind of what Theo was getting at with the Packers, is like it kind of just turned into a one-man show with Micah. And then when he went down, it's like you got nobody. And now you're trying to build out from that. But I think the best example of like the defense being sort of equal value is just the Seahawks this year, right? The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. They had the best defense in the NFL, and like they just had good players all across the board, right? They didn't have like one guy who's like, they didn't go out and get a Myles Garrett.
Here's what PFF says in their
good. Sure.
Sorry, Blaiden. Sorry.
You're good.
Here's what PFF says in their article: How fragile is defense? A look at the effect of stars versus depth on game outcomes. It says, let's see. First of all, it says, to summarize, it appears that a defense's performance and coverage is every bit the function of lesser regarded players than its stars. It says, even if coverage is more important than pass rush, coverage needs a unit. Pass rush needs stars. Such thinking is probably the reason why the top 11 defensive linemen make more than the highest paid defensive back. This research doesn't necessarily suggest that the highest paid cornerback should be paid more, or that there should be more highly paid cornerbacks. Rather, it suggests that the investment in pass rushing players who, at best, affect the passing game directly on roughly a quarter of the plays are having a difficult time making good on that investment, as dominant as they are.
Interesting. When was this?
They wrote that on March 6th, 2020.
Oh, wow. That was 6 years ago, dude. Damn.
So there's some data to suggest that the pass rush players are having trouble making good on the investments. Strahan's record-setting 22.5 sack season was for a 7-9 Giants team that finished 16th in points allowed. Garrett 5-12, right? And I know that not Stingley isn't carrying him much farther either. I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, is there real concrete evidence out there that edge rushers should be getting paid as much as they are? Can we when people have done studies, it says no. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, we should stick a fork in it because it has been 2 hours. We doubled our time.
We've gone on this for a while now. Getting back to what the subject of this episode was supposed to be, which was the top quarterbacks in the draft class. The final consensus ranking was Mendoza, Allar, Beck, Nussmeier, Simpson, with honorable mentions to Klubnik and Green.
There we go.
So thank you all for tuning into this episode. Let us know down in the comments how you feel both about our quarterback ranking as well as how you feel about positional value on the defensive side of the football. I'm sure you guys will have just as interesting discussion as we just did. So I'm excited to read those comments. But until then, and until next time, as always, from your favorite fellas here at Stay Hot, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.